Hello YouTube, my name is Nero, and today we have some Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, and today we're going to be using one of the most underrated assault rifles here in Modern Warfare Remastered. Of course, I am talking about the G36C, and the reason why I say it's underrated, right, is because we have access to all the stats, all the numbers, all the facts, all the figures here in Modern Warfare Remastered, because Call of Duty 4 is a very old game. All this stuff was figured out a very long time ago, and we know how every weapon is going to perform here in Modern Warfare Remastered, and in fact, we have spreadsheets that will actually tell us every last detail when it comes to the actual weapons here in the game. We know that the G36C is basically just an inferior M4 carbine. In fact, it has a slower fire rate, it has more recoil, it has a slower reload speed, and it has the exact same damage. And when you look at those four factors combined, it's like, okay, so why would you ever use the G36C over the M4? Well, there are actually two advantages. One is the G36C has less idle sway, and number two is the G36C has a faster raised drop time, which is one of the most irrelevant stats in Call of Duty, but basically what it means is if you're swapping to or from the G36C, it's going to happen faster than if you were using a different assault rifle. Or if you were to pick up the G36C off of the ground, it is going to happen faster. That animation is quicker as compared to picking up other assault rifles. It can help in certain situations, but mostly it's irrelevant, especially compared to very important stats like damage, time to kill, fire rate, recoil, stuff like that, right? So why would you use the G36C? The reason why is it's a freaking good weapon, right? Despite the fact that it's statistically just a slightly inferior M4 carbine, it's still a very good weapon. It's incredibly powerful. I've often said that in the Call of Duty series, I feel as though people hyper-focus on statistics a little too much, right? They focus on, well, this weapon's got X time to kill, this weapon's got X reload speed, and they're working all these numbers in their head, when ultimately, Call of Duty's a pretty random game, and oftentimes your gunfight is kind of predetermined by your connection and the skill of the other player. Oftentimes it doesn't come down to what weapon you're using, but rather how good you are while using that weapon, right? I'm trying to picture like a perfect situation, like an Old West style of a shootout almost, where like, I don't know, you and your opponent both walk out of the door at the exact same time, you see each other at the exact same time, you're at a 20-yard range, and it just comes down to who's going to be the better player. In situations like that, then perhaps the actual weapon you're using is going to matter, but most of the time, Call of Duty gunfights come down to who sees the other person first and who starts shooting at the other person first. There are some situations where at a super long range, maybe somebody with an M16 is going to outgun you if you're trying to use like a mini Uzi or something like that, but most of the time, it just comes down to using your weapon within its effective range. The G36C is quickly becoming one of my favorite weapons to use here in Modern Warfare Remastered, and the reason why is I have just completed the M4 carbine. I got up the Red Tiger. Lots of nostalgia there, guys. Longtime fans of my YouTube channel will know that the M4 was my weapon back in the day. I loved using it so much. It was like my favorite go-to gun back when Call of Duty 4 first came out, and I just unlocked Red Tiger for it. It takes me longer to get camos, I think, than most people. Like, it took me just over 1,300 kills because I don't aim for the head really whatsoever. I'm always aiming for center mass. And now that I have that out of the way, instead of working towards gold, I'm going to do that later on. I have moved on to the G36C. I'm also working with like a bunch of weapons all at once, like the MP44 and stuff like that, but I'm using the G36C, and I love using it because it's pretty much the exact same weapon as the M4, but it does have a couple of benefits. Like I said, it's similar to the MP44 in that its idle sway is almost non-existent, so you can kind of really line up your shot at a very long distance and pick people off, sort of similar to how you can do it with the MP44, which, spoiler, is kind of like an inferior version of the AK-47. They do that a lot here in Modern Warfare Remastered. A lot of the weapons are just weaker versions of other weapons, like the Uzi's a weaker P90, the MP44 is a weaker AK-47, the G36C is a weaker M4 carbine, like the list goes on and on. That's just how the game is pretty much designed. Each weapon has its own pros and cons and benefits and stuff like that, but ultimately, here in Call of Duty, all weapons are viable. Don't say you don't like a weapon because statistically it's not very good. Give the weapon a chance. Like, I'm guilty of this myself. Like, when I see the mini Uzi, I look at that weapon and I think to myself, like, I don't want to use this mini Uzi. It's a weaker P90. It has more recoil. well. It's harder to use at medium and long ranges. It's pretty weak, but still, it can be good in certain situations. Admittedly, the Uzi's a pretty rough example. In my opinion, it's one of the worst weapons in the game, but still, it's viable. You know, you can still outgun plenty of people who are using MP5s and 74Us and P90s and what have you with your mini Uzi if you see them first and if you have more gun skill than that person actually does. So I just want to make this quick video saying that the G36C is not as bad as people think it is. Most weapons in this game are actually pretty good. There are numbers out there. The stats are available to us. We can actually rank weapons from best to worst, and some of the worst weapons in the game are pretty rough to use at times, but ultimately, if you're a good player and if you're good with that weapon, you can still do very well, and that's what I wanted to make this video about. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section below, and are there any weapons out there, at least here in Modern Warfare Remastered, that are considered by the community to be subpar? Like, I see some people telling me that they love using the Uzi, right? I know personally I enjoy using the W1200, even though I believe statistically it's the weakest shotgun in the game. Now, it's tough to argue that because it's pump action. There's also a semi-automatic. There's also a full auto. But when it comes to it, like, if you get a hit marker or if you miss with the W1200, I feel as though you're pretty much dead in the face of a M1014 or a Cam Shotgun 12. So for me personally, it's the weakest shotgun in the game, but it's also my favorite one to use in the game. I am a big fan of the Skorpion, as you guys are well aware. So I would love to hear what underrated weapons do you guys like to use here in Modern Warfare Remastered. Just remember, it's not necessarily underpowered. It may just be underrated. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section below, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.